Okay, so we have the process sales call here, and anybody who leaves this process is going to exit. And again, we have changed the number of resources, sales resources, to 4. Now, what is the next thing to do? Now, we are going to deal with the processes of the of the callers who would like to get order information. So they would like to get information about their order status. Now, this part is going to be a little tricky. Why it is going to be a little tricky? Because, my friends, these orders, the people who would like to get order status information, they are going to listen to a recording delay. They are going to listen to a recording delay. But then, okay, so they are going to experience a recording delay. I am sorry. They are going to listen at record again. But after that, 15% of these callers, of type 3 callers here, or who would like to get order status information, are going to ask for speaking with an actual salesperson. And they are going to use the same resource. So they would like to speak with the salespeople again. So the resource of this process sale call and the resource of the process that I'm going to create for the people who would like to speak with the person from the order status path, okay, they are going to use the same resource. And how are we going to deal with that situation? So let's see how it's going to happen. Now, first of all, just like I have changed the name and the entity picture for tech call and sales call entities, so I am just going to do the same for the third path. So if the people would like to get order status information, I am going to change their, so I'm going to assign order status, entity type and picture, and the entity type is going to change to order. So what do we use in the text for that? Order status call. Order status call. So the entity type is going to change as order status call. And entity picture is going to change to, this time, blue ball. So click OK and blue ball. So the name of the entity is going to change and the color of the entity is going to change. And by the way, after changing that, in the entity spreadsheet here, under the basic process panel, in the entity spreadsheet here, so we have the initial picture. We have the initial picture of all entity types here. So you see the initial pictures are all reports. They are going to be changed to a colored ball when they enter in these assigned processes. Okay. So these initial pictures are always going to be reports, but you can use this assign module to change their pictures. Okay. However, you can also do the same here as well. I mean, you can choose a red, green, and blue ball in the beginning for these entity types. And you can choose a black ball, for example, for the incoming call. You can choose a black ball here. So let's choose picture black ball. I don't think we have a black ball here. We have ball, picture ball. Most probably it is a black ball. Okay. So incoming calls who enter the system right from the top, from here, who would enter the system are going to have the picture of a ball instead of a picture of a report. And even though the initial pictures are report here, because as soon as we define a change in the entity type as tech call, sales call, or order status call, we are immediately changing the picture of the entity as well. So you are not going to see any picture of a report. Okay. So let's change the incoming calls picture to black ball now. Okay. So after changing the picture and the entity type for the order status calls, now this time we are going to make them listen to another record. Okay. So if you read the text again, the colors requesting order status information are automatically handled by the phone system. And again, there is not a limit on the number of the system can handle because they are just listening a record again. Okay. Now, the estimated time for this transaction is triangularly distributed with 2, 3, 4 parameters. Okay. Now, again, we are going to have a delay here. We are going to have a delay here, and I need to implement again a store, delay, and unstore sequence, just like I have done here. Okay. Store, delay, unstore. But my friends, now I am going to teach you a much more clever way of doing that. So these store, delay, and unstore modules are given in the advanced process panel. So we have store and unstore in the advanced process panel, and we have the basic process panel here to introduce the process. Okay. Now this type of panels with a small number of blocks that I see here are called high-level programming modules. They are called high-level programming modules. So you can create superficial actions or superficial processes, okay, or behaviors in a simulation model with these modules in the basic process and the advanced process panel. Now, I am going to show you another panel, which is called the blocks panel. Okay. And in that blocks panel, you see, starting from letter A, there is a long list of the type of actions that I can create. For example, let me show that to you. At S, I have C's. At D, I have delay. At R, I have release. Okay. I have many other things. Count. So instead of using a record module, I can directly make a single counting operation without introducing any detail. So these blocks here is a low-level programming approach. So these blocks are low-level programming modules. So what is low-level programming? What is high-level programming? Actually, when you create a process, when you introduce a process here, and change it to a seize, delay, release action. Okay, if you change this process to a seize, delay, release action and introduce a resource there, okay, with that process, actually in the behind, okay, this software is basically introducing this seize block, delay block, and release block. Okay, but you do not see them. Okay. Actually, if you are professional enough to understand the language of Arena, if you are professional enough, only these blocks panel is sufficient for you to do anything. Okay? But if you are not that professional, if you are a first-time user, for example, or even though you are professional, you are just trying to create a very, very fast and comprehensible model by anyone, then you can use the modules in the basic process panel and advanced process panel. However, as I have said, these blocks panel can do anything. For example, you can create an if-else statement here. So I have if, else, else if, and end if. Okay? Everything that you can do with the other modules can be done, but in a detailed way and in a more complicated way with the blocks panel. Because of that reason, we say that the blocks panel modules are in the low level of this ocean. Okay? They are in the low level of this ocean. So the main life is going through these blocks actually. The main life is going through these blocks. However, when you use the modules in basic process or advanced process panel, you are not seeing these blocks. Okay? You are not seeing the model that you create into that deep. Okay? So because of that reason, these are called high-level programming modules, and the blocks panel is a low-level programming module. Okay? They are introducing low-level programming modules. Now, I am just going to use, again, because we have a delay process here, so we need to start from simple. We have a delay process here, right? So we are going to put the people who would like to get an order status information into a recording delay. And I am just going to introduce that delay block from the blocks module, the delay block, and I am just going to double click on that. And when I double click on that, I can change the name of this delay block to order status delay. Okay. And here I am going to write the duration as triangularly distributed with 2, 3, and 4. But there is no way that I can define the unit of this duration. Is it in hours? Is it in minutes? Is it in seconds? There is no way I can define it. However, I mean, at this point, I'm just going to click OK, but there are a few more things that I need to write here. However, if you remember from the last week, from the runs and setup here, I have replication parameters, and in the replication parameters, I have defined the base time units as minutes, which means anything that you write as a duration without any units is going to be counted as minutes. So this is the base time. If you do not specifically define the time unit for any variable, then it is by default is going to be in minutes. So from this base time units. Therefore, in this delay process, which I have introduced from the blocks panel, if I write triangular 2, 3, 4 here, it is going to be understood as the minimum amount of time is 2 minutes, the maximum amount of time is 4 minutes, and the most likely time is 3 minutes. Now, you see, we have a storage ID here, which means if you use this delay block, you can also define a storage automatically without using a store and unstore operation. So this is the advantage of low-level programming. But, I mean, this requires professionalism, okay? So you need to be advanced in Arena so you can use these blocks, actually. So here I need to define a storage ID. So I will say order status delay storage. Order status delay storage. And the allocation will simply be other. It doesn't matter what we have selected here, but it can be a value-added delay or non-value-added delay or other, whatever you would like to say. And because I cannot give many details on the picture of this delay block, okay? So for example, when I click on that, okay, you see there is not a label just like in the other modules here. So it is just saying the delay. The name of the module is actually order status delay, but it is not written on the block here. Now, because of that reason, sometimes programmers can write here additional comments to inform the people who are going to study that model in the future, okay? Or just to remind themselves about what they have done. So you can write a comment here as well. So let's click OK. So what have we done? We have used a delay block from the blocks panel, and that delay block automatically created a store, and automatically any entity who enters into that delay is going to enter in that store, and then they are going to get out of that store. So automatically this simple block is basically doing everything that these three blocks are doing. Okay? Instead of using a store delay unstore logic here with the advanced process modules, I am using these low-level blocks, and a single block can do everything. Okay? So that's a good advantage when you use the blocks. So I am going to connect that assign module to this delay operation. And if you check from the advanced process panel, if you check the storage, spreadsheet, you do not see any storage related to this order status delay storage, as you can see. Okay, so you do not see it at the moment, but it does not mean that you are not going to get any report about it. Okay, so you are going to get statistics about it in the end. However, you cannot see that storage that you have defined here at the moment. Okay. Now, after that point, after this delay operation, what happens if you check the text? After this recording delay, 15% of these callers are asking to speak with a real person who is going to be a sales agent. Okay. So we are just going to create again a decide module here. Okay, decide module here. And the name of this decide module is going to be a question. No salesperson required. No salesperson required. So it is going to be a two-way by chance. And with 85% of the callers here, they are not going to require any salesperson. Okay. So what is the answer of this question? No salesperson required. So you are asking the client, no salesperson required. So they say yes. The answer is going to be yes by 85% chance, right? So the 85% is going to say, I'm not going to require any salesperson. I'm just going to do exit. I'm just going to leave the system. And the remaining 15% is going to do what? They would like to speak with a sales agent. Now, at this point, we know that if the answer is yes, if they do not require a salesperson, they are going to leave the system immediately. So the answer is going to be true. But the other answers, 15% here, if the answer is false, 15% of these clients are going to do what? They would like to speak with a salesperson. Okay? However, my friends, you know, I mean, if you read the text, you need to remember that we have an issue about priority here. Okay? You know, these guys would like to speak with a sales agent as well. But we have said that if these guys who would like to get a detailed order status information, if they get or if they enter the same queue as the people who would like to get a sales call information, so they are going to enter in this queue, the priority will be given to the sales calls. Okay? So these guys are going to get a lower priority. So how am I going to do that? I mean, if I direct these guys to this queue here, to the process sales call queue, then the service policy by default is going to be first come, first served. So if you enter the queue first, then you are going to get served first. But we do not want that. We want a first come, first served discipline among the sales calls agents and also among the order status agents. However, in these two different types of customers, the priority will always be given to the sales calls. Okay? So how am I going to do that? Now, please focus on and listen to me very carefully, because it is going to be a little tricky to understand, but in the end, you are going to understand, okay, if you focus on. Now, I am just going to create an assign module here, and I am going to connect that false answer to that assign module. So the clients or the callers who follow this path, they are going to be directed to the sales agents, and they would like to speak with the sales agents, if you remember. So I am just going to double click on this assign module, and I will say that in this assign module, I say the name of this assign module is set order status call priority. Okay, I will say set order. This is very important, my friends. Please listen very carefully, because most probably I will ask a question in the midterm or final exam about this. So set order status call priority, I say, and I add a attribute. Okay, and the name of this attribute is going to be my sales call priority. My sales call priority, and I will change the value of this my sales call priority to 1. Okay. Okay, that's it basically. So the value, the attribute of this customer is going to be the my sales call priority is going to be 1. Okay, so that is just going to be an attribute that is attached over these type of customers. Okay, now let's look at the attribute spreadsheet panel. Okay, so remember now this is the first attribute that we have created. This is the first attribute that we have created in the arena. And you are going to learn an interesting thing at this moment about the attributes. Now you see, I have created this attribute, or I have assigned this attribute at this assign module, right? But I have used the wrong expression. I have said I have created this attribute here. Actually, I haven't created this attribute here. Okay? Actually, I do not create the attributes. I can only change the attribute values at this assign module. Okay? And at this assign module, I am changing the my sales call priority attribute of that client to 1. Now, my friends, when you define an attribute for any entity in Arena, that attribute is going to be defined for all entities, not just the order status entities here. Okay, not just the entities that goes through this path. This attribute is now created. It is available in the spreadsheet module, and it is an attribute that is created for every entity in the simulation. Okay, but only the entities who goes through this assign module is going to have that attribute equal to 1. Now remember, I have told you 1 hour ago, if you create an attribute in an arena project, the attribute is going to be equal to 0 by default. Okay? So for all entities here, that attribute is by default equal to 0. But only for the entities who goes through this assign module, that attribute is going to be changed to 1. So basically, every remaining entity here, what type of entities do we have? The incoming call, tap call, sales call, order status call. By default, their attribute values are going to be equal to 0. Which attribute? My sales call priority. Only for the entities who goes through this path, this attribute is going to change to 1. Okay? So that is an important issue. So let me clarify that. Actually, for entities who are defined as sales call entities, okay? The entities who are going to enter process sales call module. For these entities as well, an attribute named as my sales call priority is defined. It is created automatically, but the default value is 0. Okay? So, my sales call priority for the people, for the callers who follow this path is 0, but my sales call priority for the callers who follow this path is going to change to 1. Okay? Now we are going to use this attribute to define a queue discipline. Now, I have changed the order status call priority to 1 for the people who would like to speak with a salesperson and who get an order status call here. Now, I am just going to use the seize module. Here because after that point, these people would like to seize a sales agent, right? So from the advanced process panel, I am going to choose the seize here, and I will double click on that. And the name of this seize module is going to be order status call seizes salesperson. Order status call seizes salesperson. And the type of the resource here is going to be what? A salesperson. So we are basically writing the same type of resource here because they are going to speak with the same people. Okay? And the number of units that I would like to seize is 1. Now, here we have resource state. I'm not writing anything here, so I say, okay. Now, there is a question here. There is a queue type here. So, which queue I need to use here? Okay, which queue I need to use here? Now, you remember, the people who would like to get a sales information and the people who would like to speak with a sales agent, they are sharing the same queue. So the people who would like to get an information about order status, but additionally want to speak with a sales agent, and the people who would like to directly get a sales information, they are using the same queue, right? Therefore, I need to change that queue name to process sales call queue, okay? Because actually, the people here in this queue, or the people who would like to seize a sales agent, they are actually entering that queue, process sales call queue, okay? So, even though we have a queue animation here, if you are careful enough, you will see that the color of this queue is dark blue, the color of this queue is a light blue queue, okay? Because, because this is a seized queue. However, the people, we are just going to see one of the queues in this animation, okay? So this is the process sales call queue, and this is the process sales call queue again. So we are going to see the people who enter in this queue in one of the animations only, in not all of them. So there is actually a single queue here. However, there is a queue policy here, right? Now you see in this basic process spread panel, I have the queue spreadsheet view, and I will see all of the queues that I have created so far in this project. And you see all of the queues by default have the first in, first out policy. So if you enter the queue first, then you will be served first. So this is the default policy for all of the queues. But for the process sales call queue, okay, for the process sales call queue, I need to change that policy. So instead, first in, first out here, so let me right click on it and I will say edit via dialog box. So here, the type of the policy queue discipline is going to be lowest attribute value or highest attribute value. Which one? Which one should I choose? Now you see the people who are coming from this path. So let me show that to you. The people who are coming from this path are changing their order status call priority to 1. And the people who want to get the sales information, their order status call, my sales call priority is equal to 0. So because we are going to give the priority to process sales call, the callers who would like to get sales information, we need to choose from here the lowest attribute value. So if your attribute is lower, then you are going to get in front of the queue compared to the other attribute values. So if your attribute value is 0, you are going to get in front of the people whose attribute value is 1. Okay? So based on the lowest attribute value, we have a queue discipline. However, if you choose that option, then it is going to ask on which attribute you define it. So let's edit with the dialog box again. So I choose the lowest attribute value and it says I need to check which attribute value to determine the queue discipline, and I say from here, check my sales call priority. If my sales call priority is lower compared to the other client, then I'm going to get in front of that client. However, if my sales call priority is equal with another client, then by default there will be a first come first served policy there. So my objective here at this point is to do what? Is to make these two types of clients to share the same queue. If I define a directly process here, for that process I need to define a separate queue. But if instead of defining a process here, if I run a seize operation here, okay, seize operation first, where I ask the entities who go through this path to seize a sales agent, then they are going to share the same queue because they are sharing the same resource there. So I introduce a seize module here, and in that seize module, I say I want to seize a sales agent, only one of them, and I change the queue type to process sales call queue. So this means anybody who wants to receive a salesperson here is also going to enter in the sales call queue, process sales call queue. So they are going to share the same queue here. So this is an option, this is offered by the sales module.